Oh, Ustadh, I'm gonna go live. I might just ask you to do a quick check, inshallah. Could you say something, Ustadh?
Bismillah, Bismillah. Alhamdulillah.
Can you say something, Ustadh?
Yes. Bismillah. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. يعلم رحمك الله إنه يجب علينا تعلم أربع مسائل. الأولى العلم. Good or no? Bismillah, Bismillah.
Yes, Ustadh, I'm just gonna send you a message once we're ready to start, inshallah.
تمام. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. So inshallah ta'ala, this will be the second installment in our study of this book by the Sheikh, the Allama, Sheikh al-Shuyukh, Abdul Rahman ibn Nasir As-Saa'di alayhi rahmatullah, the book known as Su'alun wa Jawabun fi Aham al-Muhimmat, or questions and answers regarding the most important of affairs. In the last sitting, we began with the first question, and the first question, it was ما حد التوحيد وما أقسامه. What is the definition of a tawhid and what are its categories? And just as a brief recap, because we're going to today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, read from the explanation of what we covered last week of Sheikh Ahmed An-Najmi, rahmatullah alayh. And so as a brief recap, the author, Sheikh As-Saa'di, rahmatullah alayh, he mentions that the definition of the tawhid, that is jami' li kulli anwa'ihi, it is inclusive of all of its types and categories. Huwa ilm al-abd, it is the knowledge of the servant, as well as his i'tiqad, him having the firm belief system, wa i'tirafuhu, and him likewise acknowledging and accepting the reality, wa imanuhu bi tafarrud al-rabb, and likewise him believing in or having as part of his iman that the Lord is unique and singled out, bi kulli sifati kamalin, with every attribute of perfection, wa tawahhudahu fi dhalik, and that Allah Ta'ala is alone in that, meaning he alone has all attributes of perfection. He alone is perfect and complete in every way. There's none that is similar to him, tabaraka wa ta'ala, in his uniqueness and his perfection and completion. وَاعْتِقَادْ أَنَّهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ, and to hold as part of one's belief system that he has no partners whatsoever. وَلَا مَثِيلَ لَهُ, and that he has no likenesses whatsoever. فِي كَمَالِهِ, in his perfection or completion. Again, no one is perfect. No one is perfect other than Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. He is alone and unique in this characteristic. وَأَنَّهُ ذُو الْعُلُوهِيَّةِ وَالْعُبُودِيَّةِ عَلَى خَلْقِهِ أَجْمَعِينَ, and that he alone is the one who owns and possesses al-uluhiyya, divinity. No one is divine other than Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. No one has ubudiyya over his creation, meaning that all of the creation are servants unto Allah Ta'ala, whether they acknowledge that and understand that reality and believe in it, or whether they reject that reality and disbelieve in it, they are all still slaves of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, as there is none in the heavens and the earth, except that they come to Ar-Rahman as a servant, as a slave. ثُمَّ إِفْرَادُهُ بِأَنْوَاعِ الْعِبَادَةِ, and thereafter that one singles him out with all of the various types and manifestations of ibadah. And we mentioned in the last sitting the definition of ibadah, or worship, that was given by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahmatullah alayh. Ibadatun ismun jami', that worship, it is a comprehensive term, لِكُلِّ مَا يُحِبُّهُ اللَّهُ وَيَرْضَاهُ, for everything that Allah Ta'ala loves and is pleased with, min aqwalin wa af'alin, from statements and actions, from that which is open and that which is secret or hidden. All of that is due to Allah Ta'ala alone. So we single him out with every form and manifestation of worship, whether it is salah, praying, whether it is fasting, whether it is sadaqah or zakat, whether it is hajj, umrah, whether it is enjoining the good and prohibiting the evil, whether it is teaching beneficial knowledge, anything that is considered to be ibadah, Allah Ta'ala is singled out in that, and we don't give anyone from his creation any share in that whatsoever. فَدَخَلَ فِي هَذَا تَعْرِيفَ أَقْسَامَ التَّوْحِيدِ الثَّلَاثَةِ. So this definition that we have mentioned will end us into that are the three categories and types of at-tawheed. The first of them is tawheed in Allah Ta'ala's lordship, and that is to acknowledge that Allah Ta'ala is singled out with al-khalq, or creation, or rizq, and providing, with tadbir and management, with tarbiyah and cultivation or nurturing. Allah Ta'ala is singled out with that, and all of these things are part and parcel of lordship. And we're going to mention some speech connected to that shortly, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Athani, the second aspect or type of a tawheed, tawheedu al-asma wa sifat, is unity or tawheed of Allah Ta'ala's names and attributes. It is to affirm all of that which Allah Ta'ala has affirmed for himself, or that which his messenger alayhi wasallam is affirmed for him from beautiful names. وَمَا دَلَّتْ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الصِّفَاتِ, and from that which those names may indicate and prove from attributes without tashbih, without resembling them to the attributes of the creation. وَلَا تَمْثِيل, and we mentioned in the last sitting the difference between a tashbih and a tamthil, although they are similar, but there are subtle differences between them. وَمِنْ غَيْرِ تَحْرِيفٍ وَلَا تَعْطِيل, and without tahrif, without distorting them, saying that they are other than what they say that they are, وَلَا تَعْطِيل, nor negating those attributes of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. We mentioned as well the affair of at-takyif, the affair of at-takyif, which is a striving to assign a kayf to the attributes of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. While the attributes of Allah, they do have a kayf, we don't know what that kayf is. So when the individual came to Imam Malik, rahmatullah alayh, asking him about the kayfiyah of one of Allah's attributes, he said, concerning the statement of Allah Ta'ala, Ar-Rahmanu al-Arsh istawa, kayfa istawa. When he said to Imam Malik, concerning the statement of Allah, that Ar-Rahman rose above the throne, kayfa, how is this rising above the throne? See, he intended by way of that to try to trip Imam Malik up, because you, Ahl Sunnah, we as people of Sunnah, we say that we understand the sifat of Allah Ta'ala and the text regarding them, ala zahiriha, upon their apparent meanings, and the people of innovation and deviation, the only thing that they understand when they hear the sifat of Allah Ta'ala, the only thing that they understand them or from them is that which they can see within the creation, not realizing that there's nothing similar to him, while at the same time he is the all-hearing and the all-seeing. And so when this individual came to Imam Malik, he believed that he would be able to trip him up and get him to assign a kayf. Since you say that you accept Allah Ta'ala's attributes upon their apparent meaning, if Allah says he has a hand, then you as a Salafi, as a person of the Sunnah, say that yes, indeed Allah has a hand. So if you're saying that, then well, describe his hand to us. Give it a kayf. This is what the people of innovation and deviation do. So this man, he tried to trip Imam Malik up by way of this question. But Imam Malik alayhi rahmatullah saw right through it. He saw right through it. And he said to the man, Al-istiwa'u ghayru majhulin. The fact that Allah rose above the throne, it is not something which is unknown. Wal kayfu ghayru ma'qulin. And the howness of that is incomprehensible. We are not able to comprehend and understand it, because comprehending that and understanding that is like comprehending and understanding the one that has been described with that attribute, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So the howness of it is not something which is known. Wal imanu bihi wajibun. To believe in it is an obligation, wa su'alu anhu bid'ah, and to question that is an innovation. So in addition to those things that we have mentioned here, tamthil, wa tahrif, wa ta'til, add to that, if you're taking notes, at-takyif, and without at-takyif, or assigning a kayf to it, assigning a how to it. فهذه أقسام التوحيد التي لا يكون العبد موحدا حتى يلتزم بها كلها ويقوم بها. And these are the categories of at-tawheed, or afwan, we mentioned, we forgot the third. The third of them, Tawheed al-Ibadah, is Tawheed of Allah Ta'ala's worship. وهو إفراد الله وحده بأجناس العبادات. It is to single out Allah Ta'ala alone with all other various types and manifestations of worship, as we mentioned earlier. وأنواعها, and their various types. وإفرادها وإخلاصها لله. And likewise, that one single out Allah Ta'ala with them, and he makes them purely and sincerely for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, من غير إشراك به في شيء منها, without giving anyone a share or a portion in any of that. So these are the categories of at-tawheed, which a servant cannot be a true muwahid, a true person of tawheed, except by way of them, until he or unless he clings to all of them, all of these three types, and he establishes them. So as we mentioned, we're going to look at the kalam and the speech of Sheikh Ahmed al-Najmi regarding this first question. And if we have time, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, then we will take the second question or portion of that. Shaykh Ahmed al-Najmi, he says, I say, التوحيد معناه, the meaning of التوحيد is اعتقاد توحد الله, is to believe that Allah Ta'ala is alone, that He is unique, that He is one. وانفراده بكل صفة كمال, and likewise that one single out Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala with every attribute of perfection. فله القدرة التي لا يعجزها شيء. So for example, now he making an example from these attributes of perfection that we single out Allah Ta'ala with. From them is al-Qudra. Al-Qudra, yani, Allah Ta'ala has Qudra. So while the creation has Qudra ala بعض أشياء, yani the creation has Qudra upon some things, their Qudra is limited, it is restricted. Their ability, their power is restricted. Our ability and our power is restricted. But Allah's Qudra, it is perfect, it is complete in every way. And therefore, there is nothing that He is incapable of. There's nothing that Allah Ta'ala is incapable of. وَلَهُ الْحِكْمَةِ الْعَظِيمَةِ. Likewise, Allah Ta'ala's hikmah, this being another of Allah's attributes. Hikmah, He has great and tremendous wisdom. التي تضع الأشياء في مواضعها. And wisdom, أيها الإخوة والأخوات, it is to put everything in its proper place. اللائق بها. Putting everything in its proper place that is appropriate for it. When you put everything in its proper place that is appropriate for it, this is hikmah. This is hikmah. And this is why the opposite of that is dhulm, to place something in other than its proper place. When you take something you put in other than its proper place, this is dhulm, this is oppression. It is oppression. وَلَهُ الْعِلْمِ. He mentions another of Allah Ta'ala's attributes, and that is al-ilm, or knowledge. الَّذِي هُوَ مُحِيطٌ بِجَمِيعِ الْمَعْلُومَاتِ, which is encompassing and inclusive of all things that are known. Allah Ta'ala's knowledge, it is perfect and complete. It is a knowledge that it is not preceded by jahal, nor is it followed by a nisyan. Whereas our knowledge, we may have knowledge of certain things, but our knowledge was preceded by what? Ignorance. At one time we didn't know. At one time we did not know. And our knowledge is subject to be followed by a nisyan, or forgetfulness. We may forget some things that we once knew. We memorized something one day, and a year, 2 years later, perhaps we forgot it or forgot some of it, or it is not as firm as it used to be. Whereas Allah Ta'ala's knowledge, it is a perfect knowledge that is complete in every way. It was not preceded by ignorance. There was never a time when He did not know. Nor is it followed up by forgetfulness. There's never a time when Allah Ta'ala shall forget something which He once knew. So this is what we mean when we say attributes of perfection. All of Allah Ta'ala's attributes are attributes of perfection. وَلَا يَخْفَى عَلَيْهِ شَيْءٌ مِنْهَا. And by way of the knowledge of Allah Ta'ala, there's nothing that is hidden from Him. وَلَا يَفُوتُ عِلْمُهُ مَعْلُومٌ. And there is nothing that escapes the knowledge of Allah Ta'ala. As Allah Ta'ala is mentioned inside of His book, وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And Allah Ta'ala is Alim. He is the all-knowledgeable, the all-knower of everything. Shaykh Ahmed, he goes on to say, فَمَنْ آمَنَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْخَالِقُ الرَّازِقُ الْقَدِيرُ الْعَلِيمُ الَّذِي أَحَاطَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عِلْمًا وَاعْتَقَدَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَهُ وَهُوَ الَّذِي يَسَّرَ لَهُ رِزْقَهُ. So whoever believes that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He is the creator, He is the provider, He's the one who is capable and powerful. He is the all-knowledgeable, whose knowledge encompasses and includes everything. And he believes that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the one that has created him. And He is the one who has facilitated for him His provisions. Whatever comes to you of provisions, whether it is food, drink, financial state, or what have you, all of it comes from who? Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Allah is the one that facilitated these affairs for you. So when one believes that, and he believes هو الذي يحصي or يحصي عليه أعماله, and that Allah Ta'ala is the one who will count his actions and call him to account for them. As Allah Ta'ala said within His book, ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. As Allah Ta'ala said inside of His book, that mankind does not utter a single statement except that there is above him one who is raqibun atid, one who is vigilantly watching him, ready and prepared to write that down and take it into account. وَإِنَّ عَلَيْكُمْ لَحَافِظِينَ كِرَامًا كَاتِبِينَ. Likewise, Allah Ta'ala mentioned, indeed, upon you there are hafidhin, there are preserving, noble, scribe angels that act by way of the command of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and writing down everything that you say and everything that you do. And you believe that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will recompense the servant for everything that he does in this dunya. In khayran or in khayran for khair, in sharran for shar, meaning that if the servant does good, his reward is going to be what? Good. If the servant does evil, his reward is going to be what? Evil. And Allah Ta'ala, he grants success to whomever he wills to do actions that will bring about his felicity and his happiness and joy by way of his bounty. It is a ni'mah from Allah Ta'ala. It is a blessing of Allah Azza wa Jal if he facilitates for you the doing of good. Then the ability to do that good and the success to complete it comes from him, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Wa Malik al-Ardeen as-Sab' wa man fiha, and that Allah Ta'ala, he is afwan wa yakhdhulu man yasha bi'adlihi, and he leaves alone and he abandons whoever he wills by way of his justice. Wa yamluk as-samawat ma fiha, and Allah Ta'ala owns the heavens and whatever is whatever is within them. هو مالك السماوات السبع وما فيها ومالك الأرضين السبع ومن فيها. So Allah Ta'ala, he is the owner of the seven heavens and whatever is within them, and he is the owner of the seven earths and whatever is within them. So once the servant believes this and he acknowledges the rububiyyah of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, فإنه يجب عليه حينئذ أن يوحده بأفعاله. So as we say, and we were taught by our Sheikh Nader, he mentions that the Tawheed of Allah Ta'ala's Lordship is singling out Allah Ta'ala with his actions, meaning that of creation, that of command, that of control, that of management, that of giving life, causing death. Who does this other than Allah Ta'ala? So once you acknowledge this and you are aware of this, that all of these things are specific to Allah Ta'ala alone, now this brings about by way of iltizam that you single him out with your actions. You singled him out already with his actions: creation, command, control, ownership, giving life, causing death, and so on and so forth, provisions, raising some, elevating some and lowering others, making some sick, some healthy, enriching some, making others poor, and the likes of that. All of that is part of Allah Ta'ala's actions. He alone is in control of all of this. Once you acknowledge this fact, now you single him out with your actions. And this is Tawheed al-Ibadah. This is Tawheed al-Ibadah. Now, and so, now you sing Allah Ta'ala with your actions. He says, Al-Af'al allati خاطب الله بها نبيه محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم أن يكلف بها أمته. And these are those actions that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, he has made incumbent upon his prophet Muhammad to hold his ummah, or to make his ummah responsible for الاعتراف بألوهية ربه له يجعله يوحده بأعماله. And so once one acknowledges the right of his Lord to be worshipped alone, then this makes him single out Allah Ta'ala with his own actions. Meaning you single out Allah with your actions. وَافْعَالَهُ عَلَى مُقْتَدَى مَا شُرِعَ عَلَى لِسَانِ رَسُولِهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. And that you do these actions based upon that which is necessitated by way of what has been legislated upon the tongue of the Messenger of Allah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. What is important is that we know and we understand that the Tawheed of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, as it relates to, or we must know the categories of Tawheed, rather they are three in number. The categories of At-Tawheed, they are 3 in number. And they are not 4, as some of the people of deviation may say. Some of the people, they say there's a 4th category of Tawheed. And if we have time, then perhaps we'll mention the statement of theirs. But there are 3 categories of At-Tawheed. The first of them, Tawheed Allah bi af'alihi, is the Tawheed of Allah Ta'ala as it relates to Allah's actions, such as creation, command, control, and the likes of this. And this is called Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, of the oneness of Allah's lordship. The second of them, Tawheed Allah bi asma'ihi wa sifatihi, is the Tawheed of Allah Ta'ala as it relates to his names and his attributes, such as al-ilm, knowledge, al-qudra, power or capability or ability, as-sam', hearing, al-basar, sight, and other than that, from the attributes of Allah Ta'ala. And as we mentioned, all of Allah's attributes, they are attributes of perfection. And thirdly, Tawheed Allah bi af'alina, is Tawheed of Allah Ta'ala as it relates to our actions, and that is the Tawheed of Allah's worship. Tawheed of Allah's worship. This is ibadah allati kallafana Allahu biha. It is those acts of worship that Allah Ta'ala has made incumbent upon us. Now, and he has made them to be a means for our safety and success and felicity and joy by way of paradise in the hereafter. These are the 3 categories of Tawheed, and they are, in summary, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, the oneness of Allah Ta'ala's lordship, and this aspect of Tawheed alone by itself is not sufficient to cause a person to enter into the Deen of Islam. As we mentioned last week, the average kafir, average non-Muslim that you find walking down the street, if you ask them certain questions that are connected to lordship, they will tell you that they believe in all of that. And so this was not enough to enter them into Al-Islam. And the pagans of the Quraysh, they acknowledged the lordship of Allah Ta'ala, as Allah has mentioned inside of his book, words to the effect of, if you were to ask them who created the heavens and the earth, they're going to say Allah. So this was not the point of contention between the Prophet Muhammad and his enemies amongst the pagans, but rather the point of contention was Tawheed al-Ibadah, because while they acknowledged the lordship of Allah Ta'ala, they rendered their worship to statues and idols. So the point of contention between the prophets in general and their nations has always been Tawheed al-Ibadah, the oneness of Allah Ta'ala's worship, not Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. So the acknowledgement of Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is not enough to enter a person into the Deen of Islam. Now, because, as we mentioned, the pagans of the Quraysh used to affirm that. This is the first. The second of them, Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat, is Tawheed of Allah's names and attributes. Tawheed of Allah's names and attributes. And this is to believe in all of Allah Ta'ala's names and attributes in a manner that is befitting of the majesty and perfection of Allah Ta'ala. The third of them, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, also known as Tawheed al-Ibadah. Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, also known as Tawheed al-Ibadah. This is Tawheed of Allah Ta'ala's worship, the oneness of Allah's right to be worshipped alone. وَهُوَ الَّذِي سَارَتْ فِيهِ الْخُصُومَةِ بَيْنَ الرُّسُلِ وَأُمَمِهِمْ. And this was the point of contention between the messengers and their peoples. And Allah Ta'ala is the grantor of success. These are, in a nutshell, the aspects of Tawheed. These are the 3 categories and aspects of At-Tawheed. You have some of the people of deviation who add a 4th category of At-Tawheed, which they call Tawheed al-Hakimiyyah. Tawheed al-Hakimiyyah, or the oneness of rulership. And as our scholars have explained, that this is not an individual aspect of At-Tawheed. While we acknowledge the right of Allah Ta'ala to rule alone by himself, and that all judgment, all rulings go back to Allah Ta'ala, it is not its own aspect of At-Tawheed, but rather, as Shaykh Uthaymeen, he explained that in relation to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, it will enter into the lordship of Allah Ta'ala. and not be its own aspect. But as it relates to the servants themselves and them ruling by the judgment of Allah Ta'ala and the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal, it will enter into Tawheed al-Ibadah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. But it will not be its own category and aspect of a Tawheed as some of the people of deviation and innovation say. Now, so we have approximately 8 minutes or so. So we will perhaps suffice with this amount, and we will pick up, inshallah ta'ala, in the next sitting from the second question, and we will enter into speech regarding that. Allah knows best. Hada wa sallallahu sallam wa barik ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.